I'm curious about this question, which is like, what is John Moreland's threshold for I'm gonna punch a motherfucker's lights out? Like, what does it take to get you from what I'm experiencing right now to I'm gonna beat you up?
You have to attack me.
Lord, send down a heavenly rain. Pixels bleeding in my brain. Silver sliver in the sky. I'm in love with you and I don't know why. The well's been dry since 2015. Baptize me in a digital stream. You gotta go where there's
Welcome to the Marinade, a free-flowing conversation about the creative process with creative people. Each episode, we welcome musicians, actors, comedians, authors, visual artists, filmmakers, anyone who creates art to talk about how and why we make stuff. This is episode 175, and our guest is the incredible John Moreland. Y'all, we're coming up on the 7-year anniversary of episode 1 of The Marinade, featuring BJ Barham. The idea for the show started about 9 years ago, and at that time, I sat down and made a list of dream guests. John Moreland was one of the first names that came to mind. I started listening to his music with 2013's In The Throes, and have been a huge fan ever since. He's a generational writer, and his latest record, Visitor, may be the best example of that fact. We caught up via Zoom recently for a conversation about having a healthy relationship with technology, writing lines that connect, what it takes for John Moreland to punch a motherfucker's lights out, and so much more. Everyone, it is my immense honor to bring you my conversation with John Moreland.
Which world do I choose?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, man, I hear you just fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
John, man, thank you so much for doing this. I cannot wait to talk to you, dude. I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Um, Visitor is my favorite record of the year, and it's not close. It's my favorite thing I've heard since Isbel's Weather Vanes last year.
Thank you
Um,
so much.
you're welcome. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I've been a fan since probably since In The Throes. I think is probably when I became aware of your music, and I'm just so excited to pick your brain about your creative process and this beautiful record, dude.
Cool, thank you.
I want to tell you a quick story though, like a personal story, about the impact that specifically your live performance has had. And I have a really good friend, Dan Dyer, who bartended at the Social here in Orlando, for many years, like a decade, kind of many years, right? And so he's working, 4 or 5 nights a week. He sees all kinds of shows, and he has told me before he just tunes them out. He's just like at some point he's got a job to do. Like he can't get
Right.
caught up in the show, right?
Yeah.
You played there a few years ago. I was there. I don't remember the exact year, but it was one of the most incredible shows to this day that I've ever seen. And I walked up to get a drink, and Dan leaned into me with this wide-eyed look and his like mouth open, and he had pulled out his earplugs, and he looks at me, he goes, "Dude, I've never seen anything like this."
Oh, wow.
So
That's
it's,
awesome, man.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's quite the endorsement, but I think that's the,
Thank
that's the
you.
kind of impact that you have on people. And so I really want to dive into this because all that being said, I think this is your best record, and I don't say that lightly, man. Yeah,
Thank you
I
so
don't.
much.
You're welcome. I don't say it lightly. I've been a huge fan for a long time, um and I just think you keep getting better, and that this one is special.
Thank
So
you.
you're welcome. Let's dive into it. Let's talk
Okay.
about like what famously you got off your iPhone and unplugged a bit to write, and then this record is being written at that time. Can you
Yeah.
talk about what that process did for your creative process, what that decision did for your creative process?
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of opened things up. It just, I guess, fewer distractions. And I think I always struggle with like, I could write, I could work on a song, I could make some art, I could do, but also I could like look at my phone or watch YouTube videos or do whatever, do a million other things. And so, just kind of setting some boundaries where, like, instead of just doing whatever occurs to me immediately that will occupy my brain and feel good or whatever, it was kind of like there's just more time where I was just kind of sitting there. Like, it was like, or like go, would drive to like I had a flip phone, so I would drive,
Okay.
like drive take my wife to like a doctor's appointment or something, and I'd be like, normally, just would just look at my phone the whole time she's in there, probably waiting for her. And then, I had a flip phone, so it was just like, man, guess I'll sit here and look at the trees and and maybe I'll listen to the radio or something. I don't know,
Yeah.
like that what's on there. I don't even know anymore. So I don't know, but it just felt like more mental space to think about songs, and I think it coincided with just going through a lot of personal growth and stuff, and that I think was informing the songs, and then it just gave me the space to like actually write them.
Man, that makes a lot of sense. I try to leave my phone at home and treat it like a house phone. And a lot of
Yeah,
times I'm pretty good at it. And then I go through, it's crazy how addictive it is and how I'll
yeah,
go through spans where I've got it all the time and I am mindlessly scrolling. And then when I put it down, that clarity you talked about is something that just rushes up to me and it doesn't take long. It takes like a
yeah,
few
right,
hours, right? I feel
yeah.
like can you talk about that? Like what it felt like in terms of like, was it immediate that you were like pen to paper, or did it take a minute? Were you
No,
reaching for
it
your
took a little
phone?
time, but it was kind of like um, yeah, like I think the first day or two, I would say it felt weird. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Am I really doing this? Like, I just have a flip phone. And but then, yeah, pretty after a couple days, I just kind of felt like, oh, this is awesome, actually.
I bought a I was going through a really hard time earlier this year and I realized like my phone kept reminding me of the shit that I was dealing with, right? Like it just kept
Yeah,
giving me constant reminders of the shit that I was trying to
totally.
process and get past. And
Right.
so I bought an MP3 player so that when I
Oh,
was
yeah.
leaving, if I wanted to listen to music, I could listen to the music on the MP3 player,
Yeah.
but it didn't have apps or
Right.
anything like that. So,
Yeah.
but that the clarity came, and like then I'm just writing a lot. I'm curious, like, were you carrying around a notebook then, or like what was like the creative part looking like for you?
Yeah, so I'm always like the typing notes in my phone to when I have lyric ideas.
Yeah.
So I actually just started doing that on the flip phone that I had. I just typing old-timey text style with the numbers.
Like if you want a K, you had to hit it twice and then
Yes, yeah, that I was just typing lyric ideas on my flip phone like that.
whoa.
And I
Do you
and I would and I was texting people. Not I, it really cut down on texting because it was so difficult to do that I had to like really want to reply to somebody for doing. So it was like but I still did text some people, and yeah, and I typed lyric ideas on the flip phone, and yeah.
do you think that had any impact on the quality of the work you were doing? I mean, you've obviously been doing it at an incredibly high level for a long time, but I think this is a different level. Like I think this record's a different level. Do you
Thanks.
think that had any impact on it? Like slow you down maybe and make you really think about
I don't
each
think
word?
so. I think it just I think I just I think that has more to do with just where I was at personally when writing all that stuff, you
Mm.
know. Um I think yeah, like just kind of I think all my impulse to write songs and like all my records are kind of driven by this burning desire to know like what the fuck is wrong with me. And because I just have felt, I've always felt that. And so it feels like every day I get a little closer to the answer, I think. And I think my music has always just been a reflection of where I'm at along that journey. And this one is like, yeah, I was kind of breaking some new ground in that regard. I think just personally for in terms of my mental health and figuring out what how to be well, and um so yeah, I think the album is kind of just it came out of that. And yeah, getting rid of my smartphone for a while was kind of related to all that. And then it also kind of, aided the music creation as well.
Okay, that leads me to a question that I wanted to ask you about, which is as I think about what you just said in terms of um processing existence, right? Like there's a lot of one of the things that I'm drawn to with your music is that there's a lot of existential ruminations on it, and I'm
Yeah.
constantly freaking out about death and everything that goes along with living. So I'm curious about, and you mentioned God quite a bit in your work. Like, I'm curious about like, where you are at with that sort of understanding of existence, like on a more cosmic level, and like how you process it and what you think about it.
If anything, I think less cosmically these days, maybe. And I think I'm
Mm,
kind of like more but yeah, I think lyrically I tend to write more about I guess big picture perspective kind of stuff.
yeah.
I think in my day-to-day life I'm more like just kind of practical, like what do I need to do for me today, that kind of thing. And I used to think a lot more about big picture and where I fit into the world or where I fit into music or where I fit into whatever. Um and yeah, maybe it's maturity or something, that's not like not being as worried about that and just kind of more thinking about things on a smaller micro level, I guess, like just like how do I take care of myself and get through the day and be okay? Because I think if I do that, that's like how I can contribute to a better world, I think.
It's beautiful. Are there other practices you have other than writing that help you get to that place each day?
Um, I mean, I guess writing and I just play the guitar a lot
Hmm.
more than I write. I just mess around on the guitar um and I meditate and pray, whatever. I use pray in a vague sense, whatever that means to people. I don't care.
Hmm.
And I don't do those things as often as I'd like to, but those sometimes those are things I remember to to come back to and kind of stay grounded.
You mentioned playing guitar. Um, Seeing you live, for folks who haven't seen you live, y'all go see him live. It's a special spiritual experience. One of the things that jumps out watching you live is the way you play guitar. Can you talk about that? And like, I don't know how to explain it exactly. And I think describing guitar playing is like one of the hardest things to try to
Yeah.
describe, right? But there's something very unique about the way you play guitar. And I'm curious like how that developed and how aware you are of how unique and interesting it is.
Yeah, I'm not too aware of it, I think. I'm fairly self-taught. I've never had a lesson really or anything. But then at the same time, I do have like when I started playing guitar, my dad plays the guitar a little bit, and so when I started playing, he was the one that kind of showed me a few chords and got me going. But then I was in my school's orchestra in like 6th through 10th grade.
Hmm.
And so I learned music theory there, and I learned to read music and stuff. And so I have like some training, I guess you could say, but it's not on the guitar at all. I've never had a guitar lesson. And but I think, the orchestra, my years in the orchestra did definitely help me like write music and apply um theory that I understood and learned there to music that I liked and music that I wrote. But but yeah, like the guitar style really just came out of like just self-taught. I know what I want to hear. Let me figure out how to make my hands do that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I wonder. I love that. I think we talk a lot about on this show about sort of having structures in place, especially when we think about songs or creating something, and sometimes how me especially like I'll give you this example. As a baseball player growing up, I was very fundamental and I was obsessed with fundamentals.
Yeah.
And I think looking back now on me as a youth baseball player, that I was so obsessed with getting it right that I wasn't free to just sort of do the things that felt right. And I
Uh-huh.
find that interesting about music too, is like ha understanding how the mechanics work, but also being free
Yeah.
to like feel it, right?
It's true. Yeah, I think there's a balance you can find that's like a really good sweet spot, where, if you're when if you're all feel and you don't know what you're doing at all, like that can be cool sometimes, but it's kind of, you can't reliably make cool shit that way. You have to look into it. And then of course, yeah, if it's all by the book and no feel, then that's with music, that for sure that's really boring and nobody likes that. So yeah, I think like I've always, yeah, when I hear people, sometimes I hear musicians say like, "Oh, don't learn theory, it'll take the fun out of it," or like, "Don't learn too much about music theory." I always think that's kind of dumb, and because I
Yeah.
feel like knowing uh knowing some theory has always really helped me make the music that I want to make. And I've never felt burdened by it, like, oh my God, it's not fun anymore, and I don't know how to have fun with this or think outside the box anymore. Like, it's not like that. It's not going to ruin it. Like, just, you know, um, but, but yeah, I think like a balance is good.
Yeah, I agree. I wish I knew more theory. I wish I was more well taught. I did take some guitar lessons early on. I'm not a very good guitar player, but I do write songs as a serious hobby and play
Yeah.
them for people and have fun with it.
Yeah.
Um, but I do wish I knew more. It's just like, and there's no reason why I don't. I could go fucking learn it. I guess this is a choice, right? Um, But I love that. When Visitor first came out, kind of dropped it on us, kind of surprised us.
Oh yeah.
And I remember that day pretty vividly. Like when art hits me like this record has hit me, I love the memories that it creates. I remember very vividly that my dear friend Jordan Foley, who just happens to be texting me as we're talking,
Mhm.
who's a songwriter here in town and a really wonderful guy, one of my best friends. We spent the day. I'm a middle school teacher, so I can't text too much while I'm working,
Yeah.
But we spent the day whenever I got a moment, like texting about the record because I'd listened to it one time through in the morning and he'd been listening to it all day.
Yeah.
And there were lots of lines that just jump out because we were talking about the fact that like you spin these incredible stories and you say these wonderful things, but like you have this way of kind of like you'll say something quite plainly and in a way that's just like very direct in some ways maybe, and then you just punch somebody in the motherfucking nuts with like some kind of some lyric that I'm that makes me go, how does that man's brain work, right? So you kind of lull somebody into being like, oh, this is a regular song, and then it's like, no, it ain't. No, it is not. But
Yeah.
there's a couple of lyrics that just blew my mind, man. And I
Thank
want to
you.
ask you about some of them, but I also wonder if like that's a conscious decision, the what I just described in terms of like the way that you write. Like, are you setting up a
I
punch in the
think it might
nuts?
be, yeah, I think I consciously, man, I always, and yeah, use like punching as a metaphor. Like I think about it that way too sometimes, like haymakers, like certain lines,
Yes.
call them, that's a haymaker line or whatever. And it's just like, but I guess you can't throw haymakers all the time, so you gotta like, yeah, it is kind of, I don't know if I've ever, I think it's barely conscious. Like I think I'm barely aware
Hmm.
that like if I balance it out with you know, some setup first and then throw this in there, that's what's gonna work. Like I think that, you know, I've been writing songs long enough to kind of like have noticed that on somewhat of a conscious level, and but at the same time like it's mostly intuitive. I think I just kind of write and tweak stuff till it feels good to me,
Oh, wow. That's
and
really interesting.
I don't really think a whole lot about why it feels good. I don't, I would say I just kind of intuitively like, that's not working, move this here, put this line here, add the, now that's it, it just,
Yeah.
that's kind of how it happens.
Man, the first one that got me, that first haymaker on my initial listen was you're throwing punches at the moon, crying because it ends too soon.
Mm,
That one I felt like I'm not really sure what it was about that other than I could both uh literally picture it and then also sort of metaphorically picture it. And
yeah,
that I think is what,
yeah,
that's what makes a haymaker like that, right?
yeah,
I got a grass fire going in the back of my mind's another one. That's another one that
yeah.
just slayed me, man.
Thank you.
Do you remember when those hit you? Do you remember those two particular are probably my
I
favorite?
remember the grass fire one. I just that one's in Silver Sliver, and I just go for drives a lot when I that's kind of a, you know, leisure activity, and
Mhm.
that I enjoy. And there's a town down the road from me called Beggs, Oklahoma, and it's just kind of a chill little cowboy town, and I drive down there. I mean, back last summer I was driving down there almost every day, and just to like go for a drive and come back, and I just kind of wrote that song about taking those drives and, getting off my, yeah, it was that time I wasn't on the smartphone, and getting my face out of a screen, um and going out to see the pastures and the cows, and the little town and I don't know. I was thinking, I mean, what's the line before that? The Creek County line, and like
Yeah.
we just grass fires is what popped into my head because that's what happens out there.
Oh wow. Yeah.
It's when it's dry and hot, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I just yeah, I don't. That one just I don't know where it came from, but just you know, I think I was just thinking of Creek County stuff. What goes with Creek County grass fires? I don't know.
Man, it landed with me because it speaks to how I've been feeling lately. I feel like I've had a grass fire going in the back of my mind, and so thank you for that
Same.
line because it gave some gave something a way to describe how I'm feeling. I can just quote you now about how I've been feeling. Um, why did you get back on your phone? It sounds like this. It
Well,
sounds idyllic to be off of it.
because yeah, because once the well, I think it was really because I kind of was ready to like come back to my career and kind
Oh,
of ready to come back to the world, I
yeah.
guess. Like I was kind of done being a hermit and felt like I need some community. And then also I had recorded the record and was already planning the release and stuff. So but I just felt like at first, like I got back on Instagram and stuff because I just felt like sharing some songs. Like I just felt like, I didn't play a show for a year. And
Oh wow.
that was a way that I could just um, play a song for people. And
I'm so glad you did. I love following you on Instagram. I'm really
oh, thank
appreciate
you.
how much you share. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been enjoying it this time. And last time I was on Instagram was years ago. Last time I was really like active on there was years ago.
Hmm.
And so it's changed a lot, but I mean, it was definitely like I struggled with it back then. It really made me mentally ill like no other, I think, and
Uh-huh.
it's just rough on the mental health. And
Yeah.
uh, I mean, it still
Same.
can be for sure, but I've grown a lot too, and I think I've been enjoying it a lot more for the first time in years. So it's just cool to, like kind of hang out on there and connect with people and stuff.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm so glad you're back. We talked about metaphorical haymakers earlier, and I'm not interested in the salacious details or the drama of your recent bar fight, but I am interested in this question, which is I'm talking to you now, and you are everything I thought you would be: thoughtful, sweet, kind, gracious. That's what comes through in the music. You seem like a man who's very slow to anger. And so
Yeah.
I'm not interested in necessarily, unless you want to share, I'm not interested necessarily like what led to it all, other than I'm curious about this question, which is like, what is John Moreland's threshold for I'm gonna punch a motherfucker's lights out? Like, what does it take to get you from what I'm experiencing right now to I'm gonna beat you up?
You have to attack me. Like, I
Ah,
mean,
okay, okay.
that's what happened. Like,
Yeah.
so, and I am slow to anger. Like, it took a while. Motherfucker was harassing me for a while. So,
Man, I'm sorry you had to deal with that. That's fucking bullshit.
well, thanks.
You have to attack me as a good answer to that question.
Yeah.
Very clear answer to that question. One of the things that jumps out to me about your songs, man, is and this goes to the guitar playing too, I think, is how you use space. I feel like you are really, it feels like you are very purposeful about space in songs, letting a line breathe, letting
Yeah.
a chorus breathe. How conscious of you are that? How conscious of that are you when you're writing?
Yeah, that is something I think about consciously. I think when I when I started playing solo primarily, like I had bands before that, um and I kind of like, at first I was playing solo because I like didn't have a band anymore, and it was kind of a born out of necessity. But I started to realize that I really liked and preferred playing solo,
Mm.
or at least playing in a more stripped down um, kind of presentation, because one of the things that I realized was it's like silence can be I think of silence as like my accompaniment sometimes. So like the silence is like the second instrument that needs to come
Mm.
come through sometimes in moments, and instead of a guitar lick there just needs to be nothing. Like that's what is gonna hit bad, so it's, and all art is about that, and all life, I guess, is about that balance of, of like stuff versus negative space.
I think about that a lot, especially when it comes to work of any kind, whether it's creative work or my daily work,
Yeah,
because I tend to have I tend to have the throttle all the way down or all the way back.
yeah,
And that's not healthy and it doesn't lead to my best work. And so I have to really be conscious of pulling back on the throttle and not
yeah,
going 1,000 miles an hour because I know that at 1,000 miles an hour, I'm pretty fucking good at the things that I'm good at.
yeah,
But you can't do that all the time.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really more productive to just keep coming back one day at a time, rather than, you know, burn out, like, you know, and then have to kind of like, um yeah, you just burn out and then have to like take time away and reset over and over again. Cause I relate to that too. Like I feel like that's kind of my default mode as well.
Yeah. I'm wearing my Barry Larkin hat right now. I'm an
Oh
enormous
yeah.
Cincinnati Reds fan.
Cool.
And I always like when I get a chance to talk baseball, especially with someone who is a Reds fan.
Yeah.
You also you wear an Expos hat in a lot of photos too. So I'm just curious about your
I have
relationship with baseball.
Yeah, well, I grew up before we moved to Tulsa. We moved here when I was 10 years old. And before that, we lived in I was born in Texas, but we quickly after I was born moved to Kentucky. And we were in northern Kentucky, right across the river from Cincinnati.
Hmm.
So, that was the local team, the Reds. And I grew up going to games. Now, we usually go to a game or two in the summertime. And um as far as the Expos, I'm not really, I just think they have an excellent logo, and I like
The
wearing,
best.
I sort of like the history of like wearing, the teams that don't exist anymore. I
Hmm.
have a Seattle Supersonics hat too, and people get weird because like they moved to Oklahoma City and became the Thunder. But I'm not wearing it to front on the Thunder. The Sonics logo was the fucking
Dope.
coolest,
It's
and
dope. Yeah.
it's just cool that, that's just like the NBA history is what's cool about it to me. And um so yeah, and and I had a Lakers hat that I was wearing for a while. People were giving me shit about wearing a Lakers hat, like thought you were a Thunder fan. It's like I watch all the teams, I have league pass. I watch all of them. Like, like
Hmm.
I'm an NBA fan.
That's
But
awesome. I didn't know that part. I didn't know you were that big of an NBA fan. That's
I
awesome.
am, yeah. But man, honestly, and I haven't watched any baseball this year. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but
Dude, this Reds team is so much fun to watch. They lose a lot, but they're
yeah,
so much fun to
last year they
watch.
were, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to see Ellie De La Cruz live in Tampa, and
Oh,
he
that's
stole
cool.
three bases one day, and he made the most impossible catch, and just like he was so much fun. He signed autographs for everybody. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's sick, dude. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of, I think at this point in my life, I'm kind of more about appreciating these games that I enjoy and appreciating what the players are out there doing rather than like team loyalty, you know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think that comes with age. For me,
Yeah.
it's very similar, right? Like I'm still an obsessive Reds fan, but
Yeah.
I appreciate the game in a different way now than I did, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
There was a time when if the Reds weren't good, I wasn't watching very much. And now, like, I'll dial up the Dodgers or I'll dial up the
Totally.
Braves or whoever, right? Like, yeah, I think
Exactly.
that's very true.
That's kind of what I do too.
Yeah, I think like those allegiances start to feel kind of silly to some extent, right?
Right. You
It's
see all
like,
these I mean, there's like a Seinfeld bit about how like you're really just rooting for the clothes, you know, it's
yeah,
like a player
yeah,
leaves your team, now he's on the other team and you're booing him. And like a year
yeah,
ago, you were cheering for him. It's the same guy. He's just
yeah,
wearing clothes. Like, yeah.
yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%.
You see that happen enough times year after year. It's like, yeah, maybe you start to just realize like it's not that big a deal.
It's not that big a deal. No. Oh man, it's been such a pleasure, dude. We usually wrap the conversation up with what you're getting down on. So that's the art that has you fired up at the moment. Could be music, could be a
Okay,
painting, whatever. TV.
let's see. All right. I got a couple things.
Nice.
I'll tell you some music.
Cool.
What am I listening to? Let me look. Oh yeah. So I just somebody told me about this band High Viz, and I'm super into them
Okay.
right now. They're British. I've been listening to uh Hayden Pedigo, The Happiest Times I Ever Ignored, his instrumental guitar album from last year.
Okay.
I've been listening to Brat, the Charlie XCX album. It's pretty incredible.
Hmm.
And Mind Force. I've been listening to this hardcore band called Mind Force a lot.
Cool.
And as far as art, I've got kind of obsessed with this Lines and Color book by
Okay.
Alvin Aldrich and Scott Huttenmeyer, and it's just tattoo flash. It's like I think it's like Alvin and Scott every page, you know. But oh,
Cool.
actually, I just got this cat tattoo the other day,
Oh, dope.
my leg.
That's
Um,
really cool.
and then I got like yeah, my last couple tattoos I got were from this book. Actually, I got this cowboy skull on my neck. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, so this is like I just been looking at this every day. I want to get so many tattoos out of this book.
That's
Um,
great, man.
so yeah,
Wow, how
that's a couple
cool.
things.
Dude, man, this was you're a dream guest. When I started the
Oh, thank you.
show, I wanted to have you on, and you exceeded my already lofty expectations for the conversation. Dude,
Wow, I'm glad. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you for your time and energy. Thank you for this incredible record, and I cannot wait for folks to hear our conversation.
Thank you so much.
All right, man. Have a great night.
All right, you too.
All right,
Bye.
thanks. Bye. John Moreland, y'all. Thank you so much, John. Thank all of you for listening. JohnMoreland.net for all things John Moreland. What a thrill. The song you're hearing in this episode is Silver Sliver, which we talked about, and it's from John's incredible record, Visitor. Go get a physical copy. I have the vinyl, and it's gorgeous. If you're new to John's music, I am so delighted for you. Enjoy the deep dive. If you're new to the show, we probably have a few new ears on the show given the devotion that John has from his fans. Welcome. If you like this episode, you're going to like the show in general. There's so much to explore. MarinadePodcast.com for all things The Marinade. Follow us on all the socials, subscribe, and give us a 5-star rating on your podcast app. Tell a friend about the show. These are all free ways to support The Marinade. Go do that right now while you're listening, please. It makes a big difference for us and costs so little of your time and energy. Also, I have another show. This Marinade thing has expanded. We have a show called Life's Greatest Hits. Follow that on Instagram so you can get updates about the podcast. It's with my dear friend Jordan Foley. It's available wherever you consume podcasts. It's a lot of fun. We do a vinyl swap where we loan the other guy a record from our own collection we don't think the other guy has listened to or doesn't know that well. Listen for a month and come back together. And talk about it. We just recorded episode 2 yesterday. Had a blast doing it. I gave him a record from LP, Cancer for Cure. It's one of my favorite hip hop records. And he gave me a Zach Bryan album, which I didn't really know much of Zach Bryan's music. So it's an interesting conversation. And I hope you dig it. If you really like what we're doing, please consider joining our Patreon community. For just $2 a month, y'all, you can gain access to Patreon exclusive content like our show, Jason's Journey, where I talk about the moments that shape my creative life and provide a window into the process of making the Marinade. One of the best days of the month for me is recording What We're Getting Down On. That's the show with my dear friend, the brilliant and hilarious Peter Haraldson, where we talk about the art that has us fired up at the moment. Y'all, you can try a free trial of Patreon. No pressure. See if you like it. Try it for 7 days. Set a reminder on your phone in case you want to cancel, but keep going if you dig it. It's only $2 a month. If you want to support the show financially, but you don't want to commit to a monthly subscription, I totally get that. You can Venmo or PayPal us. It's just at the Marinade, and all the money goes right back into the making of the show. We got to cover Bonnaroo and interview Milky Chance and cover Laurel Cove Festival this summer because of the generosity of our Patreon patrons. But above all, we're just thankful that you listen and spread the word about the Marinade. What a thrill. John fucking Moreland, y'all. Until next time, go out and create something. Cheers.